It is Wednesday. I'm Keith Tebow from FRC Media. Thank you for joining us. As we do every week, we check in at this time with the mayor of the city of Fall River, Mayor Paul Coogan, who joins us from Government Center. Mayor, how are you this week?
I'm doing fine, Keith. How about you?
I am doing well. I actually want to circle back. Actually, both our topics today, sort of circling back on something we talked about earlier. Last week, we talked about the unfortunate situation that took place with a fatal stabbing on Tripp Street in the South End of Fall River. At that time when we spoke a week ago, the individuals involved in that incident were not from Fall River. Since then, there's been some reporting, primarily in the Herald News, that talked about the living conditions in that space, and the city taking some steps to shut down that rooming house, even though it wasn't an official rooming house. I guess, if you can give us any update on that, and particularly, how can the city, in its limited capacity, continue to maybe guard against this moving forward?
It's extremely difficult. If you have an apartment and you want to rent it for, I'll use silly numbers, $100 a month, and someone comes along and says, "I'll give you 150 or 180," that's where you're going to go. And what happens is a lot of these absentee landlords are looking for money, and they end up taking the higher amount, and it costs the city. I mean, as I said, it was a murder statistic dropped on us that did nothing more than location. There was no connection with any of those residents to Fall River, and that's where we were, and it's just not fair. But at the same time, I do want to stress the living conditions per se weren't that bad in the building, like
Mhm.
a mess or trash everywhere. It was actually relatively clean. The problem they had was both zoning and the amount of unrelated residents that just lived in certain areas. It was just people that were just thrown together. And as I said, you go to a house, you walk into a bedroom, you open the door. Here, you had to have a lock and a key to get into a bedroom. Those are the things we look for when we're in a house. Who's locking the door to their bedroom with an actual key and a bolt just to get in and out of their own sleeping quarters, and sharing bathrooms, and some of the requirements related to how often the area is cleaned up and what's going on. I have had a number of conversations with the director of St. Francis House since then. There are a few other residences in Fall River that we're already looking at. We're going to be going into them shortly. We'll probably have a member of the FAST team and maybe someone from the building department go in to make sure we're not facing the same kind of thing. But she was very forthcoming on her addresses, and hopefully we can. I mean, one of them had one person. How I would ever police that, I don't know. But there are a couple that have 3 and 4, so nothing like Tripp Street where we had 7 or 8 living in one
Mm.
location. It's not that bad.
Yeah. So, just for people to understanding, St. Francis, this is the organization in Boston that was charged with the care of these individuals and found them housing in Fall River. Just so people understand, right? That's the organization in Boston, St.
Right.
Francis.
And that's where we had the disagreement. There were no, as they call them, wraparound services. No one was coming down to make sure they were getting what they need to feed themselves. How were they getting any counseling? Were they getting any treatment? Were they involved in any meetings? Did they have any kind of anchor support here? And it didn't seem like they did. There was also some mental health questions that needed addressing. So it was not a good situation, and it ended in the most horrible of situations. But going forward, I'm hoping we can get a little better handle on that. And I do ask the residents if they see a steady stream of people coming and going out of a property in a neighborhood that doesn't have that kind of a flow. Let us know, and we'll check it out. We want to make sure we know who's in our city, and they're bringing a contribution to the community. They're not in here to end up getting high all day or fist fighting or God forbid ending up in a murder situation. So we want your help. If you see that, let us know.
Yeah, that was going to be my question. The best part of dealing this moving forward is just people, being aware of their surroundings, and that would, take into part city residents. And you just mentioned that getting them involved to
Absolutely,
be more aware, right? Yeah. All right.
absolutely.
Yeah, moving forward, yesterday, again, another topic we talked about a couple of weeks ago, the city has been in receipt of a $1.6 million allocation from the federal government to help with the revitalization of Pleasant Street. And yesterday, Congressman Auchincloss was here to talk about his contributions to that. And we talked about this before. This is going to go a long way to, helping the economic development options in that neighborhood.
Absolutely. Small steps. We were announcing the redoing of a couple of the facades on some of the buildings. The 1.6 million, whether it's for landscaping, streets, sidewalks, signage, a tremendous beautification and infrastructure program we can get going in the Flint would be a godsend. I know it's been dormant for a while, but you saw the interest yesterday as from both the state delegation and the federal delegation. And it's not just Congressman Auchincloss, it's Senators Markey and Senator Warren. They're all taking a part in this. And we're going to be going back to them again. I mean, there's other areas we're going to target. We want to make sure we spend this money wisely. The Flint needs some attention, and we're doing all we can to bring some support to that community down there. It's a great neighborhood. I looked down the street when we were walking at the old Notre Dame school, and it's always great when I see a dormant building like that getting a complete makeover. That's going to bring new residents, investment into the Flint, and we have a number of other pieces we're looking at doing right now. And if it all knits together, we're going to have a community back there.
Yeah. I know this is only, again, part of a process that's going to take time and more money. But, in terms of what we saw yesterday, in terms of some of the storefronts that may be able to benefit from this, when can people expect to maybe see some sort of more activity down
I think
there? Because people want to know that, obviously.
Oh, I know. I do too. Believe me, I want to see guys up there on staging, and I want to see people working. Um, I think that the Gilberts where we were yesterday, that string of, I think it's 3 or 4 storefronts altogether, you're going to see work there probably within a month. White Rose down the end will follow soon after, and then there's a renovation planned on a building across from the old Fall River Pawnbrokers. So we have a number of projects right on the cusp of getting going, and I think people will start to see some action shortly.
And did the congressman provide any insight in maybe potentially more federal funding coming down and how that time frame may work?
Absolutely. We have another batch of earmarks going in by April 5th, which is, I think, the end of next week for requests. We have some more lead pipe removal. We need to do something there. We looked at some work we want to put in on Columbia Street. I think there's like 4 of them altogether. I don't know, have them all in front of me, but we sat down and discussed them, and we're going to just keep moving and try to do whatever we can to get support into the city of Florida.
All right. All right, Mayor. Good stuff as always happening. I appreciate your time. We'll talk next week.
Okay, thanks, Keith.